All right, my friends, welcome back to Anti-War Radio on Chaos Radio 95.9 FM in Austin, Texas, streaming live worldwide on the internet, KAOS959.com. And introducing our guest today, Raje Hage. I honestly don't know all that much about him, except that he's a fan of the show and he lives somewhere in Lebanon. Welcome to the show, Raje.
Hello, Scott.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys at Anti-War, the great website?
Well, I'm doing okay today, and I talked to Eric Garris, and he sounded like he was in pretty good spirits, so I can speak for the two of us, I suppose.
Okay.
I'm really sorry to hear about the terrible truck bombing that took place yesterday. What happened with that? I wondered about the phones going out and everything.
I don't know where to start here, Scott. As in previous bombs that has been rocking this nation, and for the past 2 years, it's just been hell, and this country never really got back to stable after the killing of former prime minister, and it's just really so complicated. It's really hard I don't know where to start.
All right, well,
there's so much complexity in all this.
Okay, well, let's start with you. Maybe you can tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're from, a little bit of your background and political persuasion and so forth.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, sure. I was born in Beirut. I was pretty much raised here most of the time. I've attended. I've shifted so many schools. I spent almost a year when I was a kid back I was in Texas. At Fort Worth, that's next to Dallas, which I'm sure that's not really far from your residence.
Right.
And I've been around, but it's been mostly Beirut. But
So, tell me this: the Civil War. What year did the Civil War end again? Early 90s?
Okay. Yeah. Officially, the Civil War in Lebanon ended in 1990, where they got this Taif Accord built up, which was approved by the UN and Saudi Arabia. And this is where things really started to kick off normally here, despite the fact that there has been another power broker that extended its stay and so forth in this country, but in terms of trying to, start this country, at least to say back to normal, and it really kicked off in a reasonable, But as years went by, it's been so complicated that people here never really got over their differences and so-called pathetic sectarian divisions, and this country is really based on, I'll tell you, politically this country is based on clans, which, you have every clan has some sort of power within the parliament.
Right, this is the confessional system, right? This is the confessional system, is that what it's called?
But I have to say here something. Most of the writings by the great, and I have to send my deep regards here to your great writer, Justin Raimondo. Most of his writings regarding Lebanon are really actually, in effect, I'm really sad to say this, but time has really proved that his writings has been, showing truth of the matter here, and not just here, but in most other parts of the world, especially with people who really follow news and really go into analysis and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's interesting the way you said that. I'm really sorry to say that Justin, his writings are accurate. And, yeah, that's and the picture that Justin paints of Lebanon is. Well, I'll tell you this. I've actually never even been there, but I have a friend of mine who grew up in Chicago, And she told me that in Chicago, pretty much every neighborhood, still in the 21st century, every neighborhood is basically divided by ethnicity. You have the Italians here and the Polacks here and the Irish here and whoever. And that they're still kind of divided that way, even in America, even after, generations upon generations. I guess that's kind of my understanding of Lebanon, having definitely not been there either, is that basically it's divided up like Chicago, only they have apparently very serious issues to fight about, and so they fight about them, in much stronger ways than people in an American town would. But that basically you have this confessional system again, and really I understand this mostly from reading Justin's articles, is the Shiites get a certain number of seats no matter what, the Sunnis get a certain amount of seats no matter what, the Phalangelist Christians get to have this minister and that minister, and all of that is kind of preordained in the Constitution, no matter who wins what majority and so forth, right? Yeah. And now this kind of leads to new problems as groups that used to be much smaller are now much larger in proportion in the population, and yet their power is not increased in proportion.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so this is what people are fighting over, basically. Is that it?
Yes, but, this country has been so much divided in the last 2 years after the Syrian withdrawal there. And you got people who are actually affiliated with Syria politically and have been loyal for decades now to Syria. And you got other people who really got affiliated with other powers. And you see, it really got people, it really lost the balance of the whole country. This country has not been really able to breathe normally as an everyday life for the past 2 years. And what's really sad to hear about this is that you hear worldwide leaders, there has been so much support for Lebanon, and this is greatly appreciated, but the sad thing is nothing really is showing on land here. It's just talk and talk, but when it comes to, come and investigate how life is here, it's a totally different what you hear about from outside. I hate to say this, but if things really go on like this, another Iraq, people are just horrified just mentioning the name Iraq. So I don't know.
Another Iraq.
So far we've got 7 MPs assassinated. We had a huge war last summer, based on I don't know what. Just go back to Justin's writings and you would know so many explanations and stuff. Based on what? And it has achieved nothing except kill this economy. You got 16,000 people immigrating every month from here. This is, it just really looks like it's I don't know. There has to be something really done here.
Okay, now, you said this really all started with the assassination of Rafik Hariri, and I know... Right.
Justin, this is another page. Yeah.
Justin has taken the position that all the accusations against Syria are overblown and that it was, local jihadists of one kind or another. Can you weigh in on that?
Right. Well, if we look at what's happening with Lebanon now, look at it. This is it. This is Justin's writing. Yeah.
You agree?
I can say that he has really the facts. Who can argue with the facts? People can have different opinions, but at the end of the day, it's the facts.
Right. Well, so you
need
think
hard
that
evidence.
he's assembled the proper evidence then when he concludes that it wasn't Syria that was behind the assassination?
Well,
in your opinion?
There are no facts to to blame this or that. There has been an international investigation, and so far it's still going on, but there's nothing clear. It looks like very much one of those political conspiracies,
Well, so who do you suspect was behind it, or do you have a firm opinion about that at all, or?
No.
Okay.
Well, I don't know.
That's fair enough. That's better than.
All I can say is, at the end of the day, it's the facts that speak, and we need facts. So far, nothing. And when we analyze and when we look at Justin's writings, I mean, this is the rationality here, you know.
And for people in the audience not familiar, because this is for antiwar.com, of course, but it's also on 95.9 FM, Justin, that the guest is referring to, is Justin Raimondo, the editorial director of antiwar.com, the man who writes behind the headlines 3 times a week there, our head writer. And Lebanon has been a special focus of his. And really the war last summer. Tell me about your perceptions of what happened there. It seems from here that Israel launched a war that they'd been wanting to do for a while, under pressure from Cheney to get it done, to go ahead and push forward full throttle. And it seems to me like it completely backfired and empowered Hezbollah rather than wore them down. What do you think about that?
Right. These are the reports. I guess these are the facts. It's not me who's saying this. They have been out for months now. It's just everywhere. All I can say, this war, no single Lebanese really has any idea what really went on there. You know, some people say it's that's fault. Some people say it's the other's fault. But at the end of the day, it's just huge conspiracy theory. This war really seems far more, has a very bad, I can tell you, we are losing 16,000 people monthly now just because of that war.
Yeah.
Every month they're immigrating.
That was kind of that's what really broke the back of the Lebanese economy, is what you're saying.
Right. And it has been bad since, the assassinations before that. Mm-hmm. But this war has been, I don't know, using the word horrendous is not enough.
Tell me I want to know all about Nasrallah and Hezbollah. Tell me what you know, what you think, anything.
Okay. What I know is I don't know personally things, but what I know is that Hezbollah was a reaction to the occupation in 1982.
That is certainly true.
All right, they are affiliated with regional neighbors. They are, and they get the backing and everything. It's on everywhere, and it's on most reports. I mean, you just read it everywhere. But the reality of the matter here is that Hezbollah are a resistance team, and they have really grown so much popularity among people because they really resisted the occupations, and and the other picture in the West shows that these people are, they pose a threat to Israel, to the U.S. I mean, what's really horrendous to know is that the U.S. has never been in particular, a target for Hezbollah, and Hezbollah are not a target even to Israel, except the fact that they just resist the occupation. And from reports and from everything and from analysis, you really find that this is more complicated than anyone could think, and it's really I don't know. I'll tell you something, Scott. All this going on right now. If you go back hundreds of years, the Middle East has always been colonized and, empires here and there. This is just the ongoing scenarios, and with different demographics and so forth. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, oh, well, I'd agree with that. I guess So basically, you think that Hezbollah is really just this grassroots organization for the most part, outside funding and affiliations and so forth, but that basically it's a resistance movement. What do you think would happen if there was nothing to resist?
This is the picture here in Lebanon, but outside, I know it's not.
Right. I mean, what they tell us here is that if they weren't a resistance movement, because they had nothing to resist, then they would be trying to take over the world or whatever. That they would be an aggressive power. And I guess what I'm really, trying to get at here is whether they basically run off of people who walk in the door to volunteer, or whether they are, in their own sense, a real state authority that compels people to fund them and compels people to participate in their behavior. You know what I'm saying? The difference between a private militia and a state government.
Well, it really depends on each person from how they're seeing it. But the reality of the matter is, on the ground here, these guys are resistance people, in practical matters.
Are they supported only by Shia Arabs, or do they have widespread support among other religious and ethnic factions?
The whole Lebanon nation supports Hezbollah, regardless of its sect.
The whole Lebanon nation does. The Phalangelist Christians and everybody else.
Yes, I mean they all it's all accepted that this is a resistance movement as long as there is occupation within Lebanon. The Lebanese state has.
Well, there's not occupation in Lebanon though, is there?
Well, right now the government says that there are still there is the Sheba farms that are still Lebanese occupied land.
Mm-hmm. So this civil war before, the one in the 1980s, that lasted from when, 82, 83, all the way through 91 or something?
This all started in 1976, I suppose.
Oh, 76.
Yeah.
You can tell I'm completely ignorant about Lebanon. This is kind of Lebanon 101 for me, and.
Yeah, I know, because Lebanon is hardly mentioned in articles or news outlets.
Well, when I was a kid in the 1980s, they talked about it all the time, but it was all so mysterious. There was no point as a child trying to figure out. I mean, the wall coming down, Russia versus America and stuff. That's easy.
Yeah.
A kid can pay attention to that. But what the hell's going on in Beirut? Way over my head. My whole years growing up, I never really tried.
When you watch movies like Chuck Norris's movies back in the 80s that had to do with Lebanon, Charlie Sheen's, I just forgot such names. I mean, Lebanon has been really, has been really done. I mean, mentioned as a propaganda thing more than as a real info.
Mm-hmm. And now,
and this is media stuff. This is the media makeup, and we know that media, most medias are affiliated with political organizations. This is the reason.
Now tell me about this guy Michael Aoun. Who is he? Am I saying his name right?
I was. You mentioned him. Yeah. Well, he's. I was just going to say, he's a former general in the army who resisted this in occupation that started in 1976, and the Syrians were invited by Lebanese leaders to come in and control and have stability, because there was people were just. There was so much fighting going on, so they came in as a stability force. But at the end of the 80s, General Aoun really started to have this. He was just he did this coalition with other politicians with him, and what happened was he wanted Syria to just leave, and it was not leaving. And so eventually, when he took power, because they didn't have a consensus on a president after Amin Gemayel in 1988, 88, he had to, his term in office was to leave, but they didn't have a consensus of which president to pick. So he he appointed General Aoun as prime minister because there was no consensus, as I said. So he took power, and he waged war. He was trying to ask Syria just leave, but eventually what happened was there was this liberation war in 1989 between the Lebanese army and the Syrians, and he eventually he had to. Well, he didn't really admit defeat, but he had to leave because the presidency palace was attacked by Syrian Air Force, and so he was exiled to France. France just took him over. He spent 9 months in the French embassy until he was moved to France, and he stayed in exile until the Syrian occupation left, 15 years. Yeah, and he returned back in spring of 2005. And, shortly after they left, 2 weeks after that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And now, I remember after the war last summer, he appeared at a rally with Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah, and announced a new coalition, I believe, against the Sonora government.
Really a coalition. It's more of an agreement.
Uh-huh.
If you look at it, it's more of an agreement, more of a coalition thing. And if you look at the points in it,
what are they?
And,
what's it about?
Points
what is the agreement?
Are well accepted by all Lebanese officials in the whole state. I mean, everybody acknowledges that there are still occupation, and after the occupation, you need to have the weapons of Hezbollah within the Lebanese army, and Hezbollah would be not more of a political party, which they are already in the parliament. But these things, and it has more points. It's just a national agreement, just not to have Lebanese fighting again. That was his aim. It's a guarantee. He kept saying this is a guarantee not to have this sect fighting with this sect. It's a start, you know.
That sounds like progress.
That was the idea,
Well,
it's a start to have good relations with every party, with every sect within the country.
So now, if Aoun and I'm sorry, I'm sure I'm probably mispronouncing that, but you know who I'm talking about. If he and Nasrallah have this agreement, like you say, a good start, for when we promise not to fight each other, kind of thing. Is this whole thing kind of in opposition to the Sonora government, or are they trying to work an agreement with him too?
The Sonora government has been appointed after the resolution 1559, which I think you, of course, have known about. The 1559 talks about the full disarmament of all militias, Lebanese or non-Lebanese.
You're talking about a United Nations
land.
You're talking about a United Nations resolution, right?
1559, naturally. Hezbollah is an armed militia, and in that case, they need to be disarmed. But in the case internally within Lebanon, it's highly disputed because, I'm talking not about the government, the people here. The people here do not see it as that they should disarm before the whole occupation thing really goes away. And so when Michel Aoun did this agreement, it was based on this. And so as long as there's occupation, there are these what's it called, the arms to resist the occupation. And when that occupation is over, simply all this goes to the army. And
so you think eventually
it's really a saga, you can say, here in this country. You've got people really affiliated with the government. They have done elections in 2005. They have the majority. right now, 3 MPs have been assassinated from the majority, which they were 70, which makes it now 67. And you've got the Aoun members of parliament, which make up to about 22, I guess. And also there is the Hezbollah and the Amal movement, which is affiliated with Hezbollah and the other opposition MPs and members.
And so, so the regular government,
it's really a boiling point in Lebanon, and the only solution to such a thing, such a huge mass, immense volcano just erupting, national unity government, and this where it starts, because you got the other people saying national unity government won't do. They have always been saying that we need to get the tribunal going on, the Tribunal for Refugee Agreement, which was approved by the UN just recently under Chapter 7. And you got the other party says the Chapter 7 part will really inflame Lebanon, because you have people that believe within Lebanon that under Chapter 7 force and all that will really grow this dispute and would just make things worse of an instability. So it's really, I don't know, it's really chaotic. The whole situation is chaotic, and there's no solution immediately other than a national unity government right now, which you have all sides really sharing, taking decisions. Yeah.
Well,
and I know usually in democracies, well, what Lebanon should be basically, which is not right now, in practical terms. When you got problems like that, reach that point, you simply do a national unity government, and it's really complicated, because this government is so much affiliated with the EU and the US, and which is getting immense support.
So this is
really
why
complicated stuff.
This is why Sonora can't. This is maybe one of the reasons why Sonora can't try to integrate Hezbollah into the military, because America and the EU would never have that. And actually, he probably has his own fears that they would become the dominant force in the military if they were integrated.
Right. This is from the other point of view, because at the end of the day, you've got this 1559 thing, and then after the war last summer, you had the 1701 thing, which is very close to the 1559 resolution.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got so many resolutions. You've got a government installed based on these resolutions. You've got Lebanese people here, with the majority of people. I'm not talking about the parliament. But the majority of people wanting a national unity government, it's really so complicated. But at the end of the day, there's no solution but a national unity government. And this is what Michel Aoun has been asking for what, year now,
mm-hmm.
or more, along with his allies in the opposition.
This is Anti-War Radio. I'm talking with Raje Hage, fan of the show from Beirut. And he's given us the 101 on what's going on in Lebanon, and I'm sure you're familiar with the article by Seymour Hersh published in February in the New Yorker magazine called The Redirection, where he indicated that America, in conjunction with the Sonora government, had decided to back a group called Fatah al-Islam, who had broken away, apparently, from a different group that was loyal to Syria. And the Lebanese government, the CIA apparently decided, or the military, whoever was running it, apparently decided that these guys who Hersh equates with Al-Qaeda, Salafist Sunni radicals linked to the Bin Laden unit or movement, that basically America and the Sonora government decided to back these guys in order to counter Hezbollah. And yet we've seen in the last few weeks that this is already blown back in the Sonora government's face, and they're now in pitched battles, or were at least in pitched battles with this Fatah al-Islam group, apparently shooting at them with the weapons they'd just given them a few months before.
Yeah, well, listen, Scott, the government has really denied immensely such accusations from these reports that But at the end of the day, you see one report after the other stating this and that. And now it's just we have like almost 15 army soldiers dead from the Fatah al-Islam, you know. And but there has been so much progress. It's almost all the way done now for the army. I don't know. I cannot confirm these reports that were out by Seymour Hersh, but what we know is this: we keep reading many things all the time, and you've got the government absolutely denying all that.
Well, is it credible? Is it credible that this group is to be considered basically the local Al Qaeda affiliate, or not? Do you know?
Well, according to what we know so far, it seems so, but I cannot really confirm that. You know.
Mm-hmm. Is that the general impression on the streets of Beirut, or people kind of doubt that? Or
People here they have no idea what Fatah al-Islam are, or what they have, or what's their ideology. They don't know where they came from. And the thing is here is like, well, you got the government says that we have our borders not really closed, and they're blaming neighboring countries and all of that. But what the opposition here is saying is that, okay, you guys are in government, and so who can we blame? I mean, who is to blame when you guys are really the authority taking care of everything over here?
Mm-hmm.
So why has this come to this? It all started when the first report came out saying there was a bank robbery in the north, where the Nahr Beirut camp, all that going on, and and then the government comes out and says different things, and now this was these people just came out. We don't know where they came from and all that. It's really
It seems to me if Hersh's reporting is to be trusted, and I think he's done a pretty good job in the past few years, and really the past few decades. Basically, his indication was that America decided it was more important to back an Al-Qaeda group to counter Hezbollah, which, as you indicated, is not really an enemy of America. And that's about as frustrating as could be if that's true. Now let me ask you, I still have a few more questions here, and we're kind of running short on time, but let's go back in time to 1983 for a minute here. It's commonly...
I was too young then.
Yeah, but I'm sure you know more about this than the average Texan, so it's worth asking. And I include myself in the average Texan there for sure. The barracks bombing. The barracks bombing where the Marines and the Frenchmen and a few airmen and Navy guys, I believe, also were killed. 243 Americans were killed. And the conventional wisdom on TV in America, anyway, I don't know about necessarily in writing everywhere, but on TV anyway, the conventional wisdom is that Hezbollah did it, therefore Iran did it. And yet, I've seen information that says that this group that you mentioned a few minutes ago, the Amal militia, that they were the ones who did it, and that they were not at all Hezbollah at the time, but a different group. And so I wonder whether that's true, and if it is, was this Amal militia the cat's paw of Iran, as Hezbollah is claimed to be?
Well, the Amal militia was a different foundation in Lebanon. Right now, they are really, they've got so much MPs in Parliament, and they don't have arms. It's just a political movement right now. But, they are just affiliated right now politically. But you're referring to 1983, what happened there. I don't really know what happened, but I know of these major explosions, Back then, I wasn't really in Lebanon at that particular year. But from what I know, it was, well, this is what they said, but the truth of the matter is really hard to say. I haven't researched in particular that time and the events. I don't know much.
Okay, well, that's fair enough. I was a kid then too. I don't know either. But I'd really like to know more about that because basically this is one of the excuses to bomb Iran now, where I'm from, is that, don't you remember they blew up the barracks back in '83? Now, the fact that Reagan didn't think that was a good enough excuse to bomb Iran back then doesn't seem to have any effect on them, and the fact that it was back in 1983 doesn't either. So I figure if at least we could, if it can be proven and shown that actually Iran didn't have anything to do with it, or the Amal militia, that, that'd be worth bringing up. But, and I saw Pat Buchanan say that on TV last week, so I want to look into that more.
Well, yeah. Well, I don't know. I've been hearing the U.S. presidential debates recently on your show and sometimes on TV. And, you mentioned, and you mentioned the reasons of Iran, the hostility towards Iran is because this and that. I don't know I don't know. It's so many. There are so many dualities to this matter.
Mm-hmm. All right, now tell me this. And I apologize, really. It's kind of hard to do an interview from a position of such ignorance, which is where I'm at. But it seems like we have some lines crossed here. Are you in the middle of a bus station or something?
Yeah. No, I'm here, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Listen, so it seems to me that, as you said, the latest round of everything falling apart really started with the assassination of Hariri, and part of the aftermath of that was that all the pressure was put on Syria to withdraw all their troops from southern Lebanon, and it seems to me that basically that just left a giant power vacuum for Hezbollah to fill, which actually increased the power of Hezbollah and created more instability, when in fact the Syrians had been invited in there by the Americans, with the agreement of the Americans back before the first Gulf War, right?
Right. Yeah, in 1976. Yeah.
Oh, the Syrian army had been there since the 70s?
Yeah. Until the withdrawal was in 2005.
Oh, geez, I didn't realize that they had been in there all that time.
Yeah, well, if you look back and report Reuters and ancient reports.
I remember that there was an agreement of some kind in '91 where America had ratified that arrangement.
The thing I mentioned earlier, the Taif Accord, which got all Lebanese together, and they settled everything to build the country back from that civil war. Yeah, that was that thing that was ratified.
Okay, now let's go even further back in history and see if you can explain to me where Lebanon even comes from. I know that it was part of the Ottoman Empire until the end of World War I, and then basically France colonized the place. Is Lebanon really one of these artificial countries created by Europeans? It seems kind of odd to have so many different competing factions all living in one state like this.
Look, Scott, yeah, I know what you mean. The thing is about Lebanon, the foundation of the country was in 1920.
Oh God! So it really was the French creating it.
Has existed for thousands of years.
As its own separate kind of.
So many occupations in the region has really, took it away from highlight.
Yeah, I wonder whether you said kind of the average Lebanese guy appreciates foreign support for the government to try to keep it up, but I wonder whether things wouldn't be better if the West would just kind of back off and let things be there.
Yeah, well, this is the other team that says, and you got other people say something else. You know?
Well, what's your opinion?
My opinion?
Yeah.
I said it earlier. I think a national unity government really works for everybody here.
Even if it has to come with American backing to make it so.
Absolutely. I mean, just that. What really works this country is that if everybody shares, their opinion here, and they share the decision making. Otherwise, this country is just erupting like a volcano for the past 2 years now.
You really sound like you think your country's on the brink of falling completely apart again.
Well, it's not me. It's not me. It's just a fact, Scott. You know. I don't know. But I believe it's none of the interests of any country in the world to see another destabilization in Lebanon. Well, you know.
Well, there are some in the war party who would like to see another Lebanese war and spread it to Syria and Iran if possible. And I guess it's up to us to try to explain why that's a really bad idea.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Well, if you look at the Justin's theories, they seem really to be taking place at the moment. But at the end of the day, anything can really change at any time. There's nothing really permanent, in this all existence. It's just you just have to have people really sit down, talk, discuss, accept each other. Because after everything, I mean, we've seen world wars, we've seen all kinds of destruction in this world, but actually humanity really cannot go on only with the coexistence and accepting each other, and we've seen previous empires, we've seen everything you want, you name it, and after all, there's nothing really but.
Well, I think looking completely from the outside, and I guess this could go for the divisions in Chicago as well as in Lebanon, but it seems to me like the solution is individualism. Everybody's divided by their ethnicity and their sect, and really everybody's a person. And if we start with the premise of everybody as an individual rather than starting with the analysis of the group.
Exactly. It all starts from the individual, exactly, yeah.
And I agree with you. I believe if there's going to be a future of humanity, it's going to be individualism, not this collectivist.
Exactly. I know. Yeah. But I don't know. There's Scott. There's too much oppression everywhere. Every single country. I mean, you can just keep reading, this and that in that place, and you get stunned. This and that, you get stunned. That's besides all the hunger and starvation and all the inhuman activities that's going on and the atrocities. It's just, I don't know. We are living in it like Justin's famous day. This is the bizarre world now. After 9/11, especially in the world of politics, it's just, I don't know.
Everything inside out and upside down.
We just have to keep working to have things change. And, of course, as you said, it just starts with the self, with the individual. And I know, in the U.S. now, people are probably starting to realize things. I mean, you look at different reports all the time. It's in Europe they are changing somehow. There has been some huge strikes now in South Africa for days now, and they have paralyzed the country. It's.
Yeah, the whole thing's falling apart. Although, on the other hand, and I should point this out, and I don't do enough of this, but there's a great book called Overblown about the war on terrorism and how, well, frankly, it's overblown. But one of the things that he mentions in there is that there are fewer wars in the world now really than ever before. There are ceasefires breaking out all over the place, and when we focus on the negative, it's good to stay informed and combat some of this stuff, but we need to recognize the good as well.
Right.
All right. Well, hey, I appreciate your time very much, everybody. Raje Hage, fan of the show, fan of antiwar.com, calling in from Beirut, Lebanon. Thanks very much for your time today.
Thank you, Scott, and all you guys at antiwar.com. I cannot really tell you, you're doing a great job. Just keep spreading the word of truth to all humanity, and it's been great so far, massive success. And all we hope for is just to see you guys, succeeding and getting the picture right to the people.
Long live liberty in Lebanon.